Y2K. Over the years, Y2K has evolved into a super broad concept that captures the spirit of the late 1990s to the early 2000s. To say the least, there was a lot going on around that time. Starting with the year 2000 problem, a widespread computer issue that impacted numerous systems. The challenge really started with the design of early computer programs that could only accommodate 2-digit years. So in the 1960s, when engineers first developed computer programs, they used a 2-digit year code, leaving out the 19. As the year 2000 got closer, people were getting scared about the potential inability of systems to interpret to double zeros accurately, potentially leading to a ton of glitches or worse.
Emergency calls went through, the power stayed on, and we didn't go back into the dark ages. No one knew for sure what was going to happen with the Y2K bug.
However, in reality, there really ended up being no problems. Anyways, Y2K has been making a comeback, and why, you might ask? Well, because like I covered before, we are all desperate to latch onto a more optimistic future than what we are currently living in. Also, things were just a little bit cooler back then. Y2K includes trends in fashion, hardware design, music, futuristic technology, and an optimistic design that was really common during that era. In recent years, the Y2K aesthetic has experienced somewhat of a revival in a popular culture across social media platforms like TikTok. From about 1997 to 2004, Y2K really grew into something bigger thanks to how people have interpreted and redefined it over time. But before all of that, we had the Memphis design from around 1984 to 1997, and then the grunge era, which also kind of overlapped with Memphis starting in around 1991 to 1997. And after Y2K, we got into everybody's comfort aesthetic, Frutiger Aero. Now, it's very easy to mistake Frutiger Aero for Y2K, but the main differences include Frutiger being more HD and Y2K being more standard quality. Frutiger using more glossy textures and bubbles, and Y2K using more metallic and blob type shapes. Frutiger as a whole has a big focus on obviously the future and nature, as we've discussed before. And while Y2K definitely focuses on futurism too, it just does it in a much different way. Instead of an eco-friendly future like Frutiger, it focuses on the technology side of things a little bit more and is a little bit bolder, more of a CGI type look. So while they both include futurism and gradients, they're very different. By 1997, Y2K had already established itself, replacing the grittier aesthetics of the core 90s era like grunge. Things like the Spice Girls music got super popular, and it is worth mentioning that some post-grunge did emerge and is a dominant force as well, with bands like Creed, Foo Fighters, while nu metal also began to hit the mainstream with acts like Limp Bizkit, Deftones, and Incubus. Meanwhile, there were really popular shows coming out that we still watch today like South Park or King of the Hill, and Cartoon Network was introducing Toonami Block, which popularized anime in the US. The PlayStation 1 and Nintendo 64 were also at the height of their popularity, with games like Final Fantasy VII and GoldenEye coming out. And of course, iconic movies like Titanic and Men in Black were being talked about too. To give a brief summary of all of the aesthetics that came with Y2K, we have Cybercore, McBling, Sharon Crush, if I'm saying that right, Gen X Soft Club, Dark Y2K, Cyber Grunge, and Fantasy 2K. I will most likely be covering all of these aesthetics separately in their own videos.